welcome back to Silver and Black Today, an Odyssey Sports original podcast. Of course, also heard on the radio in Las Vegas. If you're listening to us there, thank you, Las Vegas. I miss you. And that is, of course, on 101.5 KDON and 98.5 The Bet, both Odyssey sports stations in Las Vegas. So thank you for being with us. Scott Branson, Mo Moten. Mo's the senior NFL writer over at Bleacher Report, where he writes about the entire NFL. He also writes for sportsnaut.com, where he's a Raiders columnist. You can also catch my work there as well. And Mo on x.com, a great follow. If you don't already follow him, stop right now. Go to your phone or your computer. Follow Mo, Moemoton. I am at LV Gully, and the show is SNB Today. Reminder, our video, if you're watching us, we have a great video audience, and they're very passionate, and we love them being there. But our video always brought to you by our good friends at BetUS. 150% sign-up bonus right now, folks. Season's winding down. Don't miss out on this offer. Deposit up to $2,000, get 150% sign-up bonus using the promo code YouTube150. That's YouTube150 on the promo code. My D's and B's are clearly combined today. So anyway, do that. Thank you to the friends at BetUS. We're back. We're going to get into news around the Raiders in this first segment. The second segment, we got a guest today, Sean Keeler from the Denver Post. He's going to tell us a little bit about Shedeur Sanders. Yes, we're starting to look forward a little bit towards the draft here. See a lot of people who don't like Shedeur Sanders for, I think, reasons that aren't necessarily valid. That's my opinion. We'll talk to him about it. He's a columnist. He's also the columnist, of course, as you know, got banned from Deion Sanders went awry of prime time. And I know we'll talk a little bit about that. That's not why we have him on, but he is that guy. And so it certainly frames the conversation from an interesting standpoint. So we'll talk about that as well. And then we'll get to your calls in the third segment. Mo, good news front. You know, we recorded the show last time and we thought Aiden O'Connell was out for the year. Turns out he's got a bone bruise. It doesn't look like he'll start in Monday night's game against the Falcons. It looks like it's going to be Desmond Ridder, but he has said he wants to try. I don't think he will. And with the Raiders' position in the draft right now, of course, again, they're not going to tank. You got a coach trying to save his job, but I think you got to go with the healthy guy. And I think even though everyone's happy for Aiden O'Connell, and, you know, thank goodness he didn't have any serious knee damage, I don't expect him to play on Monday night.
What does Desmond Ridder have to do to get a start with the Raiders? The Raiders clearly don't want to start Desmond Ridder. Aiden O'Connell's hand hadn't fully healed. Now, it looked pretty good on Black Friday, but he even said it hadn't fully healed, wasn't 100%. They went with Aiden O'Connell, right? Mm-hmm. We thought that they would go to Desmond Ridder after the bye week. Didn't happen. Aiden O'Connell has a bone bruise in his knee. It doesn't look like it seems unlikely he's going to play. And yet the Raiders are still leaving the door open for him to play over a healthy Desmond Ridder, who can actually move in the pocket. I know that's not everything, but he can add that dimension to the offense. I said this last week, and I said this the week before. They must not like what they see in Desmond Ridder because they're for whatever reason avoiding starting him at all costs. Now, we're not doctors. Maybe the injury isn't as nearly as bad as we thought it would be. I thought, reports came out that Aiden O'Connell's season might be over. Apparently not. But at this point, why even put him out there if he's well below 100%, just start the healthy quarterback. Desmond Ridder will get a shot to play his former team. I'm sure there's motivation there. Sure. So maybe you get something extra out of him, in my opinion.
Yeah, and all the signs point to, obviously, Aiden O'Connell not being active for the game. They activated Carter Bradley, so that the loud screaming of yes you heard was Murph from Nashville.
And screaming.
You can hear him all the way from Nashville.
Carter Bradley.
And then also they signed Corey Lutton from former draft pick, 6'6", big quarterback, hasn't played much, but they clearly need to have bodies in case something happens down the stretch. They put Zamir White on IR. That's not surprising either. His season is over. And not surprising there as well. But Mo, there is some things to talk about here. Number one is with Aiden O'Connell. I got a great discussion with one of our listeners the other day, and we were talking about O'Connell, and a lot of people have, again, and we like O'Connell. We've said it umpteen million times. I can't say it anymore that we like Aiden O'Connell. We think Aiden O'Connell is a very good backup spot starter who can win you games in the NFL. So he should have a nice career in the NFL. And God bless him for that, right? But I still have a lot of people who want to argue, or excuse me, not argue, want to discuss that they believe he hasn't had a chance yet to show that he can be a starter in the league. And I don't, I just don't believe that. And again, that's not putting down Aiden O'Connell, but just to go over the numbers, I want to just, because this gentleman yesterday was telling me, well, he's got a lot of intangibles. I'm like, what intangibles are those? Leadership. Okay. Good arm. Yeah. But here's the thing. And this is from Tashawn Reed's piece earlier on Monday, where he says O'Connell has completed 63% of his passes this season. That ranks 31st amongst quarterbacks with at least 100 attempts. He's averaged 6.6 yards per attempt. That's 29th. And he's tied for 31st in touchdown to interception ratio. And he goes on to say he just hasn't displayed much, if any, growth from his rookie year. Now, yes, not a good offensive coordinator, not a good head coach, but I don't think any of that, even if he got a good head coach in, I don't think he's still a starting quarterback. And I think people just need to frame this differently. He is an important piece, I believe, moving forward, because you got to have a guy like in the NFL. You got to have quarterbacks, and you have to be deep in quarterback. And I say you have to have a good second quarterback in case the guy misses time, because they all do. But Mo, I think it's time to think about the future at quarterback for the Raiders, and to think that it does not include Aiden O'Connell as the starter.
I figured that was a foregone conclusion after what we saw before he got hurt. I mean, it's not
too.
like the Raiders offense is lighting it up before he got hurt last Sunday. So he had a great game against the Kansas City Chiefs. But as we discussed, the Raiders scored 17 points, though.
Yeah.
And that wasn't all his fault. Again, Daniel Carlson missed multiple kicks against the Chiefs. I get that. But the offense has continued to stall in the red zone and or settle for field goals. So they settled for field goals, long field goals against the Chiefs on Black Friday. Last Sunday against the Buccaneers, we saw Aiden O'Connell throw a red zone interception. So as far as the fact he never got a chance to showcase himself, I said this last week and I'm going to say it again. Opportunities are earned. They're not given. Aiden O'Connell had a chance to clearly beat out Gardner Minshew for the starting job. Now, we thought Aiden O'Connell was better than Gardner Minshew in the offseason. I want to make that clear. We thought Aiden O'Connell should have started week one. Mm-hmm. But we also understood that Aiden O'Connell didn't grab the job by the reins and outright win the job. Like, he wasn't that much greater than Gardner Minshew. He was better than Gardner Minshew, in my opinion, but was he night and day ahead of Gardner Minshew in this quarterback race? No, he wasn't.
Or he would have won the job.
He would have won the job if it was clear as day that he was the better quarterback. It was close. And as I said, I feel like if it was close, you go to Aiden O'Connell because you want to find out what his ceiling is. But to say that he didn't have a chance to showcase himself, well, hey, you got to win the job. And if he had won the job, he would have had a chance to showcase himself from week one. But it was close, and the Raiders went with experience, which, again, we disagree with. We feel that Aiden O'Connell should have been QB1.
Absolutely.
But let's not act like Aiden O'Connell blew Gardner Minshew out of the water when it came to this quarterback competition. That is not what happened. And when you're looking at it long term, I'm not passing on a top quarterback prospect to find out what Aiden O'Connell is. You're going to have Aiden O'Connell under contract. He's not going anywhere. So if he's there and he beats out whoever the Raiders draft, assuming they draft the quarterback, so be it. But he still has that opportunity to compete for the job.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think you also look at this. A lot of people, the same gentleman was like, well, he's never been given the keys. Now, I don't know what that means. The keys. I think he's been given the keys. And to your point, you got to earn it. And Aiden O'Connell, I'm telling you, he's going to be a good quarterback in the league. There's no problem with that. It's just not your future franchise quarterback. There's nothing to indicate that. There's no evidence to show that. And I had somebody else say to me, well, he outplayed Patrick Mahomes twice. No, he didn't. He outplayed him once this past game. If you remember the previous game where the Raiders beat the Chiefs, he didn't complete a pass after the first quarter. That's not outplaying Patrick Mahomes. And don't compare Aiden O'Connell to Patrick Mahomes. There's just not. It's not even in the same universe. Okay, so let's not go there. With all due respect. All right, Mo, you do have. We had some as we were getting ready to shoot the show today. You had some breaking news from Jeremy Fowler that was reported on ESPN. Why don't you share that with everybody?
So I woke up this morning, or I was up this morning having my grits, eggs, and cheese with bacon,
Woo!
and Raider alert came up on my Bleacher Report app, and it said insiders torn on Antonio Pierce's future. So I said, let me see what this is about. And it's half of it is a lot of stuff we already talked about, right? So Mark Davis is going to lean on a lot on Tom Brady going forward. So the inclusion of Tom Brady in those football decisions clouds Antonio Pierce's future. But Jeremy Fowler also revealed that Antonio Pierce is on a short-term contract. So while the details of
Mhm.
Pierce's contract aren't revealed, coaching contracts, aren't revealed as far as the inner working of the details are concerned. Jeremy Fowler did say that Antonio Pierce is on a quote-unquote short-term deal, and that plays into the uncertainty of his future with the Raiders. And Jeremy Fowler goes on to talk about the quarterback situation and then the Raiders' struggles, of course, losing 9 straight games. But what I took from that piece is that the Raiders from the beginning didn't fully buy into Antonio Pierce.
Mm.
Again, they gave him a short-term contract. Scott, you and I talked about this before we go on air. A lot of these coaches get longer-term deals.
Yes.
3 or 5, at least 3 years. And it sounds like Antonio Pierce had, relative to other coaches in the league, has a short contract. And what that tells me is the Raiders weren't fully bought in. It this was basically a trial year. Okay, we'll see what happens, but we're gonna reassess this in the off season, based on how the season plays out, and based on that, I'm stronger now in my stance that he's not going to return as the Raiders head coach,
Right. And
because what really quick,
yeah,
Scott,
yeah, yeah.
it's very realistic that they're going to be 2-15, 0-6 in the division, and one of the worst offensive teams in the league. Again, not all his fault, but when you look at you bake in the game management issues, what's been going on behind the scenes with the players complaining about scheduling conflicts, the team meetings that have been had during the season, it all adds up to Antonio Pierce being dismissed as the head coach.
Right. And if you remember, Fowler a couple weeks ago too talked about the rest of the coaching staff feeling unsure of their future, and that again goes to not only because of the year they've had, but to the short-term contract. And this is where I had people telling me, "Well, Cliff Kingsbury and Mark Davis screwed that up because he wouldn't pay him." Well, technically, did Mark Davis not want to pay him, i.e., the organization, not Mark Davis? But yes, but Cliff Kingsbury probably went in there and said, "Okay, fine, but I need more than a 2-year deal." Because it was reported back then that it was a 2-year deal, and it sounds like Fowler's report that you just read kind of confirms that to a certain degree what we heard earlier on when the contract was first signed. And if you're a coach and you're somebody like Cliff Kingsbury who wants to be a head coach in the NFL again, if you see somebody's only got a 2-year deal, it's like, well, woof, that means I could be out of a job again in a year, which is what's probably going to happen.
Mm.
So it had less to do with money and more to do with security. And again, this goes back to the importance of not a head coach just knowing football, but having people that he brings in with him who are bought in, who believe in what they're going to do. And clearly, I think you couched it perfectly, this was kind of another audition year. Now, of course, they weren't going to say that before the year because fans were all excited about it. They wanted Antonio Pierce's coach. Players wanted Antonio Pierce's coach. And so they gave everybody what they wanted, and you've seen what you've gotten. And now with Tom Brady in the mix and all that stuff, it looks like it's going to change over. Even Josiah Anderson had a report as well this week, sort of pointing at that as well, that there's probably going to be changes on the horizon with Tom Brady there, especially at the coaching perspective. So we'll see how that all ends up. It's gonna be fascinating, Mo. This off season, especially early on, if they do win 2 or 3 games and they dismiss Antonio Pierce quickly after the end of the season, which is what they should do. I mean, they got to do it really quickly. Then it's going to be an early, exciting off season as they do that coaching search. As long as it's not somebody already in the playoffs, which you kind of hope that would be, especially from an offensive standpoint. But we'll get into candidates and things like that as we get closer to it. But it's going to be a heck of an offseason once again.
possible quarterback carousal. I mean, likely quarterback carousal, possible head coaching carousal, changes. Raider Nation is used to this. But as I said, now you throw in the possibility of having the number one overall pick to all of this. And wow, what an off season is going to be. Buckle up.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy. And of course, quarterback is at the top of the list. Of course, you got to get a head coach, and that'll help you dictate what you're going to do, the plans. But and the Raiders certainly have to have plan B. But when we come back after this break, we're going to be talking to Sean Keeler from the Denver Post about Shedeur Sanders, which I know a lot of folks like me believe if the Raiders are in the position to take him, that's who they should take. And Cam Ward being number two. Either one of those guys are good. Hearing reports that the Giants really like Cam Ward, so they'd like Cam Ward. So we'll see how the season. We still got some games left. We never know. Crazy wins. I know that would destroy the plans to have the number one pick, but you never know. So we'll talk about that with Sean Keeler, though. He'll give us some insight into Colorado and Mr. Sanders as a quarterback. All right. So don't go anywhere. We're coming back with Sean Keeler right after this break. This is Silver and Black Today, an Odyssey Sports original podcast heard on 1015 KDON 98.5 The Bet in Las Vegas and video brought to you by BetUS. One. Hey, folks, let us take just a few minutes to talk about our good friends at BetUS. Again, we tell you how they bring you the video here on our YouTube channel, on X, wherever you're watching us. It's because of the folks at BetUS and their support of Silver and Black Today. And Mo and I have been betting here all season long. Remember, you get 150% sign-up bonus. That's right, a sign-up bonus by using the code YouTube150. And that is exclusive. It's up to $2,000, and you can do that. So make sure you do it. It's at the bottom of the screen there as you watch it scroll across. But Mo, the one thing, and I just want to get your thoughts on this, because the one thing that I've gotten to know the website and the mobile app really well as we show you the website here. But when it comes to football, I just love what you're able to do here with game by game, but also that parlay builder and the props. You know, you write about prop bets, you do all that stuff that you're doing. The prop builder, all of that is really cool. Talk about what you've found with BetUS as a partner and as somewhere where you're betting your football this year.
Love my props. So the NFL prop builder is definitely a key thing for me to use on the site. If you've been tailing me this season, hopefully you've been making some money. The Jack Jones bet, again, want to remind people the Jack Jones bet did cash last week with that second interception. That bet was only available on BetUS. Couldn't find that prop, that futures prop anywhere else. So BetUS is going to have some of the lines that you won't be able to find at other sports books, and you can benefit from that. If you're pretty sharp, if you're not, then you'll be got by the BetUS sports books. But if you follow me on Twitter, I can help you avoid the traps and help you make some money with alt lines, with totals, with the sides. Most of the time, I'm pretty good with the sides. I'm not perfect, but again, you'll hit more than you miss. As I said, with the futures bets, I'm still waiting on a couple. That Raiders over 6 wins is not going to happen.
Yeah.
But I am still waiting on a few others that I expect to pull through in the next couple of weeks. Again, I got those props over at BetUS where I couldn't find those props anywhere else.
Yeah. So make sure you go check it out. And I know this week too, there's 2 Monday night games again this week, Mo. The Raiders obviously being one of those as well. But yeah, make sure you head over to BetUS and really just give it a shot. And again, we're giving you the opportunity, 150% sign up bonus up to $2,000 just using the promo code YouTube150. That's YouTube150 just by tuning in here and betting with Mo and I. Now, some people have won some money from Mo, from me. Others, not so much. We've had some trouble. But anyway, we appreciate it. But one thing you'll never go wrong with is the folks at BetUS. We thank them for sponsoring the show, and we tell you, get over there, open that account, enjoy YouTube 150, that promo code, YouTube 150 from BetUS. Welcome back to Silver and Black Today, of course, an Odyssey Sports original podcast heard on the radio in Las Vegas on 101.5 KDON and 98.5 The Bet. Video brought to you by our friends at BetUS. And in this segment, we're talking about the Raiders' future. Yeah, not lots to talk about when it comes to the present, right? Sitting there at 2-11, but we wanted to do a deep dive and look into some of the players that you guys are all talking about. We're talking about the quarterback position for the Raiders. And one of the players that everyone seems to want to project and talk about is Shedeur Sanders, of course, the Colorado Buffaloes, and son of NFL great Deion Sanders. And to talk about him, we bring in on one of the great columnists out there at the Denver Post, and that is Sean Keeler. Sean, of course, covers the Buffaloes, covers all of Denver sports. And Sean, we appreciate you being with us to talk a little bit about the younger Sanders.
Yeah, Shedeur, thank you for having me. Yeah, it's a really interesting topic here too, and especially for me because I was just out there for the Broncos Raiders game to help cover that for the Denver Post, and got to talk to a lot of Raiders fans while I was out there and kind of see what you all have firsthand. And yeah, y'all need a QB.
No doubt. And of course, we're a follower of yours, and we've followed, for those of us in the media, quote unquote, with the quote marks around the media, of course, the situation with you and Deion Sanders, which we're not spending a lot of time on today, but a lot of folks know about that. And for those of us who went to journalism school and know what the role of a columnist is, we were very much in your corner on that one, and really interesting stuff. But when it comes to Deion Sanders' son, Shedeur Sanders, as a quarterback, listen, we understand there's a lot of perceptions, right, Sean, about Shedeur Sanders. Here he is. He's driving a Rolls Royce on campus because of the NIL stuff, and he's got the
bling.
Yes, he's got the bling. He's got a very healthy ego. He's a good player. He's projected to be 1 or 2 in the draft, or 3 in the draft, depending, because Travis Hunter, his teammate, is right there too. But when you think about Shedeur Sanders and you think about sort of that public image versus what you see around the program, around college football, what sort of misconceptions may be there? And then what sort of challenges? Are there any personality, quote unquote, issues that you have observed?
Yeah, he's a little bit like his dad in actually more good ways than bad. And let me explain to you this way. And this is me not throwing shade at Deion. This is me throwing compliments at Deion. Deion Sanders is when it comes to his football IQ and football acumen, takes his job seriously. Shedeur Sanders takes the football side of things very, very seriously. He is, relative to the perception, again, air quotes, and the watch and the flash and the bling, he's a studious football wonk. He really, really is. And let me give you a quote that he a couple weeks ago that I think kind of sums him up. And it surprised all of us who were sitting there a little bit that he would be this forward about it. Now, he has his moments. The nature nurture thing, he's Deion Sanders' son. So there's pride, there's respect, there's a certain show me what have you. But there's also a really, really smart football player in there. And we had asked him about, this is Oklahoma State game, is 52-0 win. They the games where they've been challenged, they've been really challenged. And with this year, with the exception of North Dakota State, when they were either really challenged or really weren't. There weren't a lot of games other than maybe Baylor and North Dakota State that were kind of tight. Both of those got a little weird. But, we asked him about something he'd seen or adapted to. I'm trying to remember the setup to the question, but I'll never forget the answer. Because he said, I love when we go to the sidelines and somebody gives me something I haven't seen before, because I love solving problems. I love to problem solve. And I literally about slapped the table next to one of my colleagues, Patrick Saunders, and said, that's why that guy is going to be one of the first 3 guys off the board. Because that is an answer that a general manager is going to want to hear, and that a team owner is going to want to hear, because that is a mature answer and a telling answer and a very honest one, because they haven't had a lot of failure. But what he has, it's like anything else in life. You see who a person really is when they get kind of thrown into adversity, when they get it head on. We're all front running champs when we're up 52-0. And he talked about the times where he was challenged at Nebraska, at Oregon, where they got crushed last year, the things that they had to adapt to. And I think that showed a lot of wisdom beyond his years. There are times and comments that he's made that have shown a lot of wisdom. And yeah, he flashes the watch too. So it's an interesting package, but it's going to be a lot more deep and thoughtful. Really, I say that genuinely. Then I think the public perception is this is an NFL quarterback and somebody groomed to be an NFL quarterback for a long time.
So, Sean, you talked about the perception. You talked about the football IQ. Shedeur Sanders clearly has that. Talk about how his relationship is with his teammates, because I think a lot of Raider fans have some reservations about how he would mix in the locker room with other guys who are making a ton of money. Talk about his relationship with Travis Hunter, because I know it's easy to have a good relationship with the guy you're throwing the ball to, and you're both Heisman Trophy, candidates. But talk about his relationship with Travis Hunter, and then his relationship with other teammates on the team.
And that's a really, really good question, and a really good point that a lot of people have made about him too, because if there is any red flag other than size and not height so much, but just kind of bulk out with Shedeur, it's that, and this is to your point about teammates and chemistry, and an NFL locker room, which is generally pretty old and pretty cynical. Definitely pretty cynical. I mean, look at the world everywhere, good team or bad. Is that Shedeur Sanders has never been a quarterback on a team that wasn't coached by his dad.
Right.
That's a different, you know what I mean? You kind of take a pause and go, huh. And that might be the only major red flag. And to your point about chemistry, people like him. As a question, Jordan Seaton would run through two walls for him, the young freshman left tackle. He's not, again, for all the stuff about the music and the flash and were guys required to come to his concert. He might be a better singer than his dad, so good for him on that front. I don't know. That's a great debate they have internally. But he's kind of a Renaissance guy, and I think people who know him like him for that. And yeah, he's Deion Sanders' kid, so we gotta show it. We gotta be out there and kind of lead the pack there. But you don't get a lot of bad vibes chemistry wise, because again, I think they see that he's not where he is because he's the coach's son. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's that. Like that's always the risk of, this is an unfair comparison, but a young Cody Hawkins here at Colorado, when Dan Hawkins was here, Cody was a good Big 12 player, solid Big 12 player. Was he a great Big 12 player? No. Shedeur Sanders is a great Big 12 player. I mean, he would be that if Dan Hawkins was coaching. Well, in spite of Dan Hawkins coaching him, he would be a pretty good Big 12 player. So those are not apples to apples. It's a little bit of apples to oranges, but that's a great, great point. I think that's the pause that if anybody has with him is how will he handle that circumstance? And again, I know you want to get into this, presuming that his father is not his coach, and how will they handle adversity, and how will he handle, again, very cynical team players who are understandably in their self-interest. It's 53 little small businesses in that locker room, and those guys are in it for themselves and should be, with the way that the league structure is set up. How will he cope with that? That's the most fascinating question, because none of us know the answer. But he has been trained to see that. Yeah. And I would think he would try to go out of his way if there are concerns to address that first and foremost, whether that's socially and structurally within the team, to say, I'm not above you here.
Right. And that's where I build on that, because like you said, no one knows, because he's played for his father. But when you look at the Raiders situation, we were talking about it in an earlier segment today, Sean, which was, all the points and things point to maybe Antonio Pierce not being retained after this year, despite his meteoric rise last year and all that had happened. And part of that will be because of the influence of Tom Brady. Part of that will be because of the influence of the fact that they're going to, more than likely, if they finish in that top two this year, they're going to draft a quarterback. It's either Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. And if it is Shedeur Sanders, then you got to start to think about, okay, what kind of coach do we hire that's going to come in and help develop a young quarterback like this? When you think about it, and I know we don't have anything to go on, so just asking your opinion as a columnist who's covered football for a long time, when you look at Shedeur Sanders and you start to think ahead and say, okay, when he goes to play for another coach that's not his dad, what type of person, what type of personality do you think is going to be best to manage him and to get the most out of him?
I think somebody who's won. I think that's the really short answer. And somebody who's got a really good track record of winning. Here's where the Raiders situation, which is real. Like, I have a feeling it's either Raiders or Giants, right?
Right.
For him, it's got to be one of the, because they both need the same thing. And they're both huge markets. And again, coming to visit last month, last month, I'm losing track of the days of holidays, but yeah, coming to see that game late last month, all I could think about taking the lift ride back to the Luxor was, oh yeah, this is town is Shedeur and it's Dion, but it's really the Sanders family town. I can see them look at this and going, yeah, where do we have billboards? You can have them in New York, you can have them on the Strip. Yeah, it's one of the two. I think someone who has won, I think the fact that they have a relationship and a good one with Tom Brady is helpful. And I think that he knows, since he knows Shedeur personally and knows Dion personally and knows the kind of fit or the kind of thing that's gonna bridge that for the young man. But that's another great question. And that's another of the, it's not a red flag. It's not even a yellow one. Is it, I don't know what color we put it. What's supposed to be? Is it orange? It's an orange.
Orange.
I don't know what it is where you say what kind of offensive coordinator is going to be able to work with him if his dad isn't there or even if he is. Pat Shurmur has worked out well with him. Now you get full disclosure. I've gotten a lot of varying reports on the type of personality that works well with Shedeur because Shedeur is basically the OC here. He knows what he wants. He sees everything. And let's put it this way. It didn't work with Sean Lewis, but it's working pretty well with Pat Shurmur. And whether that's because it's a college guy or a guy system guy who wants what he wants in the case of Lewis and is trying to, mold guys to fit, or Shurmur just says, look, you know what you're doing. We'll adapt to you. And obviously the results kind of flipped and have kind of spoken for themselves. And maybe that's an answer too. That's got to be somebody who's willing to give him more of the control and more of the reins. And that would be true with a lot of elite QBs that way. Obviously, that wouldn't be unique just to Shedeur.
Now, Sean, you said he's hasn't been coached by anyone but his dad, right? And we're talking about what type of coach would get the most out of Shedeur Sanders. Raider fans have been flirting with this idea because Antonio Pierce is on the hot seat. Report came out today that insiders are torn on what his future will be in Las Vegas. I know he said he's for the college game, but there are rumors that, he may be interested in an NFL job. Dallas has come up. The Raiders have come up. Is there any possibility that Shedeur and Dion are a package deal to the Las Vegas Raiders? And Tom Brady says, look, we want the best coach for Shedeur Sanders, and we think it's you, Dion. Are you interested in coming to Las Vegas to coach your son on a pro level?
Oh, I wouldn't doubt that conversation's happened. What I've learned, good and bad, is never rule anything out when it comes to Deion Sanders. You don't know what you could get, and anything is on the table. And in a world where you have a TV show that is good for Smack Entertainment and good for the family, you don't want to break up the cast. It's as simple as that. And yet I can also see a couple seasons where, son goes away, leaves the nest, and you've got a camera crews in Vegas and camera crews in Boulder, or wherever else people land. I think it's certainly been talked about. I certainly think it's been floated. I genuinely don't think that's what Deion Sanders wants, because what Deion Sanders wants is power. And he's never going to have as much as he has right now, right? I'm sure there are entertainment people telling him, go. Oh, you've done it. You're a win away from going to the Big 12 title game in a year and a half with a team that was 1-11. You've proven that this method works, And when that method has 2 of the top 3 picks in the NFL draft, that helps a lot too. You've proven all you can here, which you can argue yes or no. But I'll bet coaching people are like, are you kidding? Like, why would you ever go? One, and I've written about this too. But one, your league is not that good. That's the Mountain West has been, guys. The Big 12 was not good. And the Big 12 is a basketball league. Let's just be real about what that is. It's an amazing men's basketball league and women's basketball as well. That then they just kind of threw the football together and said, guess what? UCF and Colorado and Cincinnati. Good luck. Figure it out. And we'll square it away. It's this sort of, it's kind of the old Conference USA on steroids, like had a baby with the old Big 8. It doesn't make much sense. But it's kind of and I say this as a Northwestern grad, it's like the old Big 10 West, which I miss because it wasn't relevant. But God, it was fun. Yeah. It was crazy. Purdue's winning it. How? I don't know. Why does Iowa not win it every year? I don't know. Why does Nebraska never get off the mat? Who knows? But that's kind of what the Big 12 is now. So you can win this league every year. They're going to clean up in the portal. They're going to start getting better prep kids if they prove that they can develop them. That's the Jordan Seaton and Draylon Miller effect of the 2-star freshmen they've got here. And you're just not going to have that. Now, if anyone, the flip side of that is if anyone would give Deion Sanders the control, respect, airspace to do to do a talk show on the side and all the entertainment stuff. Again, Vegas, that fits in New York, that fits in Vegas, it fits in LA. It wouldn't fit in Jacksonville. It wouldn't fit in Carolina, although they make, they've proven here they can make it fit anywhere. If the only team in the NFL I could see that would give him that kind of space is the Raiders, and just say, look, make us you. That's because what the Buffs did, what Colorado did was say, they seeded the brand. They seeded a lot of money. Yeah. They're making a lot. They spent money to make money. They said, you're us, Prime 21. There isn't – Ralphie's gone. I mean, poor Ralphie. There's a reason she doesn't run so hard. She's young and she's temperamental and she's fine. And it is a very young guy. I don't know if you know how they cycled him in and out. We got a very young one. But she's, not into it because Little John ran out in front of
Yeah, the mascots change all the time now.
Yeah, they change all the time now. They ran out of somebody else. Yeah. For one of the home games last year. She's just thinking what am I doing here? Because the point is the brand, the brand is Prime 21. The brand is not Ralphie in a CU now. Yeah. And Colorado would have a problem if they lost that, obviously, because it's literally the only thing holding up your house of cards, kind of. And the cards is a bad parallel, but it's become your foundation is one guy in that image. I think the Raiders would see that. I think they're looking obviously for an image there, and they're looking for a guy. And again, Shedeur is that guy. He is a smart, talented, handsome movie star QB on the front of your, on billboards in the Strip. He is him. And Deion is that guy and always has been him. But the other thing, and back to the flip side of why wouldn't you take that job as a coach? Never mind that I don't think Deion, being a pro, wants to coach pros again. He wants kids. He wants control. Is that if Bo Nix, this is bringing it, all politics being local, if Bo Nix and Sean Payton have figured this thing out, who's going to be fourth in that division for a while? I'm sorry. I'm saying this on a radio.
It's true. No, we say it all the time.
I know. I'm saying that as a Northwestern one. Look, I know what it's like. I root for the underdog, baby. It's just someone's got to be fourth, and you're waiting for Jim Harbaugh to burn out. That's the next thing. One of those next.
Andy Reid to retire.
Andy Reid has to retire. Yeah. Right. You need Andy Reid to retire. Believe me, Broncos country has been through this too. You start counting the days when you're in the new Patriots division, basically now from 20 years ago. We all are. All of us are. You start going, okay, what's it going to take? Well, they got to make Mahomes angry. Well, he's got a lifetime contract and owns part of the Royals, so he's probably not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, then Andy needs to go.
Yeah.
You need to break that up.
So true. True.
And Harbaugh probably will. They'll be successful. They'll flame out. That's his history. And Peyton, we will see. But you see, my point is that it's a hard job. The Giants. I think the Raiders. This is just speaking purely objectively. I'm not a Broncos fan. I'm a Midwest guy, raised by Bears fans who suffer. That's a whole other topic.
Oh man.
Yeah, I think the Raiders are a better fit for Shedeur, and the Giants would be a better fit for Dion. And I don't think the Giants want the Sanders show, if that makes sense. I think the Raiders would do the Sanders show.
Yeah.
But I think that's just a tough coaching job, not a tough QB job. I think Shedeur would walk right in, and it's a marked improvement, and you start building some things around him again.
Yeah.
But I think that's that's going to be one of the NFL's tougher coaching jobs.
And can you only imagine the battle that Dion would have with columnists in New York, especially from the Post?
Oh, right. Yeah, and I think he knows that too. That if I'm the biggest thing to push over, it's not hard. It's there's some
well,
you know, if this were Mike Tyson's Punch Out, I'm not going to say I'm Glass Joe, but you're not getting beyond bald. I'm pretty much bald bull at this point.
There you go.
I think you've got a shot to get the title pretty quick in New York. It's different. You got to go through the grind. You got to beat Mike Tyson.
Yes, you gotta have that. I mean, thicker than thick skin. Sean, listen, man, we certainly appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us, and then we'll see what happens as we get around to springtime. If one or two of the Sanders make their way to Las Vegas, we'll regroup with you and get your point of view again on that. But thank you so much for being generous with your time today.
Thank you, Sean.
Hey, anytime, guys. Take care up there. See ya.
All right, take care. There you go. There's Sean Keeler, columnist from the Denver Post. Some really interesting things there, Mo. Before we throw it a break, we went longer with him than we told him we would, which is great because he was gracious
with very gracious with his time.
Yes,
we appreciate it.
Boy, there's a lot, and I think we might end up talking about more of it next week too, because a lot of what he said there significant. And I hope for those people who were negative about Shedeur Sanders, to me, the one key point I want to make before we go to the break, I'll get your thoughts too before we go, Mo, is how smart and intelligent of a football player Shedeur Sanders is, and sometimes the Kentucky Fried Chicken commercials, the Rolls Royce, the gold watches, that stuff, people see that. But what you heard there about him basically being the offensive, that in a young quarterback coming into the NFL where the game gets even faster and more difficult, that's exactly what you want.
Yeah, he's not just all glitz and glamour for the people like, oh, that's Dion's son, the watches, the bling, as Sean pointed out. He has a football mind, obviously. Obviously, his dad played at a high level. So you would expect that from him, but I think that gets missed in a lot of the Shedeur Sanders talk with the other stuff, the outside of the football stuff, that you forget that he has a high IQ football mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff. Again, thanks to Sean Keeler from the Denver Post. And if you don't know about the battle he had with Deion Sanders, go Google it. Pretty classic. And he handled himself well, and they've actually somewhat mended fences. They I guess came to an understanding and things are okay there, which is how it should be. So good stuff. But thanks again to Sean. All right, we're going to get to a break. When we come back here on Silver and Black today, we're getting to your phone calls. And for our radio audience, it'll only be a quick one because we spent so much time with Sean. But if you want to hear all the calls, make sure you check out the podcast feed. Go subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your audio. Make sure you rate and review, since we are an Odyssey Sports original podcast. We're coming back after this, and a special shout out to, again, BetUS for bringing you the video. We're coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
Talk about the Raiders. It's time to hear from you.
Any Oakland Raider fan, Las Vegas Raider fan, stand up.
On this edition of the Raider Nation Mailbag.
That black hole rocking and rolling.
Don't be a wallflower. Be a part of the show. Leave your question or message by calling 702-900-7869. That's 702-900-7869. Or drop us an email at mail@silverandblacktoday.com.
All right. We're back. Silver and Black Today, Odyssey Sports Original Podcast, heard on the radio, 101 KDAWN, 101.5 KDAWN, and 98.5 The Bet. Video brought to you by our friends at BetUS. We're going to get right to your calls. I'm sure we'll have some quarterback calls, which is great after that amazing interview. Love that interview. I love when interviews go so well, Mo. You reach out to people and everybody's so generous with their time.
Mhm.
And boy, that one good. If you missed it or if you didn't listen to the whole thing, make sure you go back and listen to it.
Yes.
That good on Shedeur
Yes.
Sanders. All right, we're going to start our Raider Nation mailbag, 702-900-7869. If you want to be a part of it, by the way, 702-900-7869, with our buddy Jacob in Fresno. Might as well get off started with a bang.
Start.
Go, friends. Down the mountain. This is Jacob from Fresno. What's up, guys? So I got a lot to say. I'm going to try and fit it in the 3 minutes I'm allotted. I'll try and do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to be able to do it. I already know. Anyway, Aiden O'Connell, hurt again. Broke his thumb earlier in the year. Had to miss so much time. And now the bone bruise, which we all thought might have been a break or a tear or something, bone bruise. And those are very painful. And here he is with the report coming out. He wants to play Monday Night Football. What moxie, man. What toughness. What just a mentally strong human being. I'm proud of him, for where he's come from, a walk-on at Purdue, played tight end for a season, I think, on the practice squad. It's insane how far he's made it compared to what you would have predicted for him. Incredible. Here's what I'll say. Antonio Pierce, right? Everybody's surprised. Oh, he's terrible. We thought we were going to go to the Super Bowl. Not I, right? Not us, guys. But we are a bit surprised because we all had him somewhere around 7-8 wins, possibility that could be possible. And, I gotta be honest, I expected him to beat the Buccaneers this week. I thought that we were going to win because they were so depleted in the backfield injury-wise. And they're so terrible all season against the tight end. Brock Bowers, I thought, was going to have a field day. Only 3 targets going into the fourth quarter. That's crazy. Now, all this, jumbled up. The franchise is in disarray. So what I'm saying is we shouldn't expect a coach in 1 year to turn it around. But here's what I will say. It shouldn't look like this, right? But even if we were to get rid of Antonio Pierce, I think there's an unrealistic expectation on a new coach. They're going to think, Raider Nation is going to think, oh, yeah, we'll bring in Deion Sanders. We'll bring in Bill Belichick. We'll bring in Ben Johnson, right? We'll bring in one of these crazy hot new guys, the new hot shot of the football world. And he's going to turn this around. That's not what's going to happen, guys. Next year, no matter what, we look like a team that at best may win 8 games, may sneak into the playoffs with 9 wins. But, I think Aiden O'Connell has to start next year no matter what. If he's healthy, he should be the starter, and Shedeur should, learn behind him. I'm assuming we're getting Shedeur. I have no idea. But that's how I think it. What do you guys think? Do you think that we should put a rookie out there just with no training, nothing, don't learn behind Aiden when we have a great solid backup? Or what do you guys think? Am I wrong? Because I think that's a solid way to go. You guys take it easy. Go Raiders.
Jacob from Fresno. Jacob, you know how much we love you, but what?
Scott, can I start here?
What?
Jacob, we need to put a camera in Jacob's home wherever he is. Is he wearing an Aiden O'Connell jersey? Is he wearing a throwback Aiden O'Connell Purdue jersey? There is no way on this green earth you are sitting Shedeur Sanders behind Aiden O'Connell. I'm sorry. Respect to Aiden O'Connell. Tough guy. Been through a lot. Check out, just read up on his story at Purdue, what he went through. We understand he's had a tough go here on the pro league with he's been thrown into. But if you're drafting Shedeur Sanders, you are starting Shedeur Sanders if he is healthy.
Yes.
There would be a mutiny from NFL, from fans, from everywhere, from all directions. What are the Raiders doing sitting Shedeur Sanders behind Aiden O'Connell? And that's respect to Aiden O'Connell, but you draft Shedeur Sanders to start Shedeur Sanders.
Correct. And so you said it well. And Jacob, again, hey, man, I like Aiden O'Connell too. Good kid. All good. But I think Mo made the points. I don't need to belabor them. The other thing that you mentioned, Jacob, that I want to talk about was this idea that with Antonio Pierce, if you switch coaches again, you're not going to go from 2-15 to being a Super Bowl team. I agree with that. But let me use last year. You remember how badly the Raiders beat the Chargers right before Brandon Staley got fired? The Chargers finished 5-12, and by checking this current standings on NFL.com, the Chargers are 8-5. Now, I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs. I'm not saying they're a great team. They have a great defense, but look at the difference by bringing in the coach. Now, they already had the quarterback, but bringing in the coach, the difference. What they already have 3 wins more than they had last year, and they're in the playoff hunt, where last year they were terrible, getting beat, giving up 63 points to the Raiders on offense. So I disagree with you on that. Again, I agree with you. They're not going to go from 2-15 to winning the Super Bowl, but the right coach, the right situation, the right quarterback, and all of that happening together, to your point, Mo, that you and I used to disagree, and I've come around to you on this one, is you could turn things around pretty quickly. Again, not Super Bowl winning, but you can get to the point where you're in the playoff. 8-9 games would be great next year after only winning 2.
Right. And also you have to factor in the schedule. And I talked about this past offseason, why the Chargers were going to win 9 games at minimum and potentially win 10 or 11 games. When you finish last in the division, your schedule is a lot easier the following year. You face all the other last place teams. Now, all the other last place teams aren't necessarily going to be last place teams in the following year, but some of them, a lot of them will be.
Yeah.
And it's exactly my point, again, why I said the Chargers are going to win a ton of games. They finished 4th last year, so they got the easiest schedule in the division. The Raiders finished 2nd last year. They had the tiebreaker over the Denver Broncos, so they had so they played a bunch of second-place teams this year. Now, next year, the Raiders are going to have a 4th-place schedule, and the Chargers will probably have a 2nd or 3rd-place schedule. So the Raiders, if they can solve the quarterback position, get a quality head coach, they could potentially turn it around a lot faster than people think. Now, again, easier said than done. They got to get the quarterback. They got to get the coaching position right. But with a 4th-place schedule, you can move up if you make the right moves in the offseason.
Right. And so I would say, again, I mean, we always appreciate your calls, Jacobs, because it makes us laugh. But also,
Jacob's great.
He's great. And we disagree on the Aiden O'Connell thing with Shedeur Sanders, if he's indeed the pick. But I do think that as jaded as you can be as Raider fans, Raider Nation, because of all that's happened in the last 25, 30 years, I do think right coach, right situation, bring it in. And as you heard from Sean Keeler in the previous segment talking about Shedeur Sanders, it's sort of like what does he need to be successful? He needs a coach that's won before. So you bring somebody in who's got the credibility and the track record of having won in the NFL, maybe even at the college level, we'll see. Then you suddenly you have the kind of mix of what you need. So great call. Appreciate it, Jacob. All right, now we're going out to Raider Izzy. Here's Raider Izzy.
What's up, guys? Raider Izzy. Had a quick question for you. So I've been under the belief, I don't feel like we are exactly a rebuilding team. I actually like some of the talent that we have here. I know we're like, I think if we can get a competent quarterback and a few more pieces, I think that we are at least, mediocre, above average. We can be if we can get those pieces in. Like, I know we constantly talk about the Houston Texans a few years ago. I really believe that. So, obviously that goes for the right coaching as well. That was kind of the conversation we had last week. If we stick with the same coaches that we have right now, I no longer believe that. As we're too conservative, we play not to lose, drives me crazy. Anyway, not going down that route again. Here's my question. My concern is that even though I do believe we have some pieces, we have a lot of free agents coming up. Spillane, Hobbs, Merrick, Chason, Kuntz, Meredith. I know I'm missing some too, but we have a good amount of free agents here. Why have none of them been re-signed yet? I don't understand that. Like, I understand we have a lot of money going into next season. Is it that we're waiting to see what the coaching staff is going to be, so we see what the system is going to be? Is that what we're waiting for? Are the players, do you think, not wanting to sign in season? Is it a combination of the two? That's kind of my concern. Like, why haven't any of these guys been re-signed? Kind of nervous about that. What are your thoughts, guys? Love the show as always, guys. Later.
Izzy, thanks, man. We appreciate it. Mo, go ahead. I'll let you answer first.
I think that's absolutely it. You don't want to re-sign guys until you know what your coaching staff is going to look like, because you don't know who's going to fit the new system. If you're going to bring in a new head coach, a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator. I just talked about in the first segment how insiders are torn on what the Raiders are going to do at the head coaching position. Scott and I believe that they're going to fire Antonio Pierce. And if you're firing Antonio Pierce, you're probably letting go Scott Turner and Patrick Graham as well, and you're cleaning house. So then you don't want to put the horse before the cart, or the cart before the horse, excuse me. You want to hire the coaching staff first, and then have that coach staff have input on who they want on the roster going forward. So you have to get the coaching staff locked in before you get the roster locked in.
Right. And these are the signs that when people say, "Oh, I'm not going to fire him." Now, anything can happen. I'm open to that. But you look at all these signs. And the other thing I want to say too is because Robert Spillane has been great since he's come over as a free agent too. Malcolm Kuntz, of course, was injured. He showed promise. You have some of these players, but they're not all pro players. These are not guys that are untouchable that you're like, oh my gosh, if they lose him, they could get better. I mean, Mo, they have the cap space. They have the ability to go out and get other players too. So again, we talked about it, I think last time, about having high expectations, right? Of the team. And so you can get better because you don't sign a guy who's doing really well and is solid. Don't get me wrong. Doesn't mean that if you don't sign him, you can't go get somebody better. So I'm not saying that you want to keep some core guys together. I think, Hobbs a good example of that. And sometimes he obviously has some trouble with health issues staying on the field, but to me, I get it, but you can also get better.
Absolutely right, Scott. But I think part of Raider Izzy's concern is he's also seeing other teams re-sign players. So James
Correct.
Conner already got his extension. There are trickling of other contracts being announced as extensions around the league. But again, if you're the Raiders, knowing that Antonio Pierce is on a hot seat, you're in a holding pattern now until further notice.
No question. All right. Next call is Anders, our good buddy Anders, who is in Oaktown. Here he is.
Hello, fellas. Anders from Oakland, and here in the Christmas spirit, Antonio Pierce is the gift that just keeps on giving. You go for it on fourth down with over 6 minutes remaining. Seems all right. But then you kick the field goal with 3:05 remaining. So we wasted 3 minutes. If you're going to kick it, you might as well kick it when you got 6 minutes left. And then, of course, another timeout blunder. I mean, it's Groundhog Day. The bad decision-making here is not limited to in-game decisions. It seems to me that he almost always makes like the wrong decision first, and then by circumstance is forced to fix it by making the call he should have made in the first place. With Getsley, obviously terrible decision, forced to turn with Turner. Well, he was a little bit of a better OC, probably should have been the OC from day one. Minshew, enough said. You start and you stick with Zamir White in a scheme that was completely wrong for him. So then you turn to Madison, who has had zero success as the bell cow in his history in the league. So injuries forces Pierce to play the guy who should have played from day one. And then on top of that, he brings in like a dozen senior advisors to lean on, and he kind of deflects the decision making. It seems like he doesn't trust himself to make the right decision. And as we all know, there are no statues of committees. I can really think of one good decision he's made in his tenure, and that was over a year ago when he started AOC over Garoppolo. And maybe retaining Graham, I'll give him that. But that wasn't really a slam dunk either, I don't think. And he doesn't show any improvement. It's kind of astonishing. I'd love to hear if you guys can think of any other good decisions he's made in the first place, not being forced to make them. Now that he's had 22 regular season games plus 3 preseason games, so we're looking at 25 games, and he's shown no improvement. Love to hear what you guys think. Thanks. Happy holidays.
All right, there's Anders in Oakland, and that's the point we've been making for weeks, Mo, right? Which is it's not because for those of you who want to defend Antonio Pierce and the circumstances of which he's inherited or took over and then made his own in the offseason, because he made it his own. It's his staff. Make no bones about it. I don't care what excuses you want to try to make. That's just the way it is. is that even if the Raiders were 2-11 right now, but you saw those things improve and you saw Antonio Pierce grow as a coach, especially game manager coach, because he's a CEO type coach, then I wouldn't be here saying that, well, it could be, yeah, he might lose his job, but I could see why you keep him because he showed improvement, right? Just like if you had a quarterback who was really rough at the beginning and then stopped turning the ball over, if Minshew had stopped turning the ball over and became more like he was last year in Indianapolis, I would say the same thing. Yeah, you got to keep starting him. Look, yeah, he sucked at the beginning, but he changed. Anders hits on the main point for me there, Mo, which is why I'm convinced of it, which is I just haven't seen anything change.
Other than what we can point to the game management situations, what decisions can we actually say are Antonio Pierce's decisions? So Anders made the good point that he leans on a lot of other people to make these critical decisions. And I want to expand on that and say, okay, so if we're looking at what Antonio Pierce brings to the table, what good decisions he's made, what can we say that was an Antonio Pierce decision outside of, and this is the only one I can really think of off the top of my head, bringing in Jack Jones and the juice that he provided that secondary last year, because we all know that was Antonio Pierce because of his connection with Jack Jones, going back to Jack Jones's high school years. So I give Antonio Pierce credit for that, and he put his reputation on the line for Jack Jones, and it worked out for him. Jack Jones hasn't been the same player this year, but that's one of the decisions I can point to say that was Antonio Pierce, and that was a good move. Clavon Chason, maybe he had a hand in that. Maybe it was Tom. We don't know if it was him or Tom Telesco, so I can't give credit there. But as a head coach with so many senior advisors on your staff, as Anders pointed out, can you really give Antonio Pierce credit for a lot of the decisions that the Raiders made, even if they were good ones? So for the people listening or in our chat who are going to provide some reasons, some good decisions from Antonio Pierce, can you really definitively say that was an Antonio Pierce decision?
Yeah, and then you look at situations are situations. Yes, you don't have the same control Josh McDaniels had, but you look at their record over 25 games when Josh McDaniels was fired, it's about the same. So it is. I mean, people want to make excuses for that too. It's like the record is the record. I remember specifically, and I know some people get sick of me saying this, Mo, but I'm going to say it anyway. A certain coach saying resume on the grass. Enough said. All right, moving on. Izzy, thanks again, man, for the call. We appreciate, or Anders, excuse me.
Anders.
Thanks for the call. Now we're moving on to T. Dougie. Here's T. Dougie.
California. Haven't called in a while, but I'm just thinking about the loss against the Bucks and seeing how, as of today, the Raiders hold the first overall pick. Now we'll see if they can keep that the rest of the year. But you know, as we're getting closer to the season, just wanted to bring this up, which is, you know, I think about bringing this new quarterback in the draft, whoever that may be, if the Raiders get the opportunity to do so. Is it worth keeping the same coaching staff when we're having to develop a new quarterback? I look at C.J. Stroud and the Texans, brand new coaching staff with a brand new quarterback. Looks to be working pretty well. I look at Jaden Daniels and the new coaching staff from the same offseason as well, and they look to be doing pretty well. You know, Drake May and his coaching staff, you know, they're obviously up and down. Drake May didn't start the year, and you know, you could argue maybe the coach isn't the right coach for the team, but you know, we'll see how it goes with the Patriots. You know, and obviously the Broncos would be the outlier here, but they have, you know, a proven head coach in Sean Payton. But I look at the Bears situation, you know, with Eberflus, and we all thought they'd be in a better place this season, but you know, with all the new weapons and, you know, with the great talent in Caleb, they don't seem to be winning. But they kept the same coach from the year prior who had Justin Fields. So I just don't want to get into the Bears situation where we keep the same coaching staff and draft a Cam Ward or a Shedeur Sanders. And, you know, now we're basically setting them up for failure day one when we're going to have to get a brand new coach the following season. So just food for thought. they're going to have to make that decision in the offseason. But something to think about now that I'm watching the Bears too. So that's it. That's all I got. Have a good one, guys.
Yeah, appreciate the call, T. Dougie, as always. This is. I love when our listeners and viewers get to the same point we get to on their own, because you hear people talk it out, and that's using your head, man. It's smart, because you're right. You don't want, and I said that all along too. I would not trust this coaching staff. How could you? How could you? I mean, they can't coach the players they have.
T. Dougie drew a very good parallel there, because Bears, as he said, kept their previous head coach, who, by the way, is a defensive-minded head coach. Matt Eberflus was a defensive coordinator before he became a head coach. Antonio Pierce, defensive background, not much of a resume as a coordinator, but the point still stands, and it kind of connects to the point that I made, that if you don't believe in Antonio Pierce beyond 1 year, and let's go back to segment 1, Jeremy Fowler's report, he's on a short-term contract.
Yep.
If you don't believe in Antonio Pierce for the long term, then I wouldn't feel good about bringing in a quarterback and then potentially firing Antonio Pierce next year, and then having him learn his second system, him being that quarterback, having him learn a second system in 2 years. We talk about this all the time. Young quarterbacks struggling because of the turnover around them. They have 2 coordinators in 2 years. They have 3 coordinators in 3 years. The Raiders need stability, right? So whatever they decide to do in the offseason, they have to make sure that is the plan for the long term. Not this 1 year here, 1 year there thing. You're bringing in probably a quarterback to develop for the long term. Provide a stable environment so that quarterback has the best chance to succeed. You don't do that with a head coach you don't fully buy into.
Right, and the personality we talked about with Sean Keeler too is like what kind of, if it's Shedeur Sanders again, if it's Cam Ward, probably about the same thing. But the point is, you got to bring somebody in who's going to be able to develop the relationship with them to get the most out of them. In Chicago, Eberflus was not that guy, didn't get there. But I mean, Caleb Williams already, I'm looking at the notes here, he's on pace to have the greatest season in Chicago Bears history by a quarterback. Now, you know the history of the Bears; they don't exactly have a lot of good quarterbacks in their history.
Bar is very low.
But yeah, the bar is low, but he's currently on pace for over 3,500 yards, 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions for a rookie who had their coach and fired mid-season. That's pretty good. So you can see if they get the right person there. So it's a theme there, but we certainly appreciate it. And T. Dougie, way to breadcrumb us along your thought process there, because we agree with you on that completely. So all good stuff. And thank you for all the calls today. We appreciate it. Wish we could get to more, but we will get to more next week. Make sure you take part 702-900-7869. If you want to text us, you can do that. Oh, I have one text I promised to read, because sometimes I forget about the text. I'll be honest with you. It's from Raider B in Oakland. It says, I understand the Raiders need a quarterback. What are your feelings about drafting a quarterback, number one, that may be a second-round pick in other drafts? So he basically saying, if you can't get those top 2, Mo, do you reach and take a quarterback in the first round that you can get later? And the answer to that would be no, because the value, it's not that there's going to be a lot of quarterback needy teams that are going to say, oh, suddenly Jaden Milroe is a mid first round pick. No. I mean, if he's a second, if most teams have him mid second round or third round, whatever it is, that's where you take them. So if you miss out on those top 2, you don't reach to get it. I hope that answers the question. You agree, don't you, Mo?
I do, but the one exception is if you feel like a quarterback is an early second round pick and you want to trade up, to the last pick in the first round because you want that 5th year option. Because remember, first round picks get that 5th year option. Then I do it. This is kind of what the Baltimore Ravens did with Lamar Jackson, right?
Yes.
So Lamar Jackson, 2-time MVP, was the last pick in the first round of his draft class in 2018. He was the last of the quarterbacks drafted in the first round. The Ravens traded up to get him. So if you're the Raiders and you feel like the quarterback you want, whether it's Drew Aller, Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon, whoever it is, if you feel like he's a early second round pick and you want to jump on other teams to get that quarterback, I wouldn't be opposed to trading up to that last pick in the first round and getting your quarterback.
And oh, by the way, things change. You remember Michael Penix was a surefire going to be top of the first round. Then we saw it happen in the championship game last year. Then people were like, well, nah, he's going to be top of the second round. And then what happened? Atlanta loved him. They loved him. And that's the other thing,
LA
Mo, right? You see
LA
a
takes one
quarterback
team.
and you love him. And there's even been reports out in the last 2 weeks that the Raiders were actually thinking about taking Michael Penix, but then the Falcons blew that up because they went up and got him. Now it worked out; they got Brock Bowers, but yeah, you just never know. So we'll see once you get into All-Star game time. When you get into the rookie games and the Shriner game and the East-West. Why is the name escaping me? The one down in Alabama.
Senior Bowl.
For those that are seniors, the Senior Bowl too is huge. It has a huge impact. We've seen in the last several years on that. So excuse me for the brain pause there. Mo, we sit here on Thursday. Let everybody know what else you got going this weekend, including your post game live stuff coming up after the Monday night game.
First of all, shout out to everyone who joined my Bleacher Report chat on Wednesday when we talked about whether Raiders should have a mandate at the quarterback position. Should they draft outright a quarterback in the first round no matter what? And we kind of talked about that with the last text from Raider B. As you mentioned, Scott, the Raiders don't play till Monday, so no post-game show on Sunday. It'll be Monday night, late night with Mo. There will be some changes to the Bleacher Report live stream schedule. I'll share those in the coming weeks. Some exciting new stuff to come over at those live shows if you've been checking them out.
All right, there you go. Make sure you catch. Also, we'll have a post-game show on Monday, myself and Murph on Monday night, late Monday night. So we'll see you guys then. In the meantime, make sure you get your calls in. And I know you might want to wait till after the Monday game, and Mo and I will be back on Tuesday. We'll see how we do that with the game on Monday night. It'll be interesting. But nonetheless, we'll be back with you next week, and we certainly appreciate you guys being with us. Do us a favor. Make sure you rate and review the show. Subscribe, of course, first, and then rate and review. Also, if you're watching us on video, another thanks to our good friends at BetUS and their 150% sign-up bonus for you. That's right, up to $2,000. Just use the promo code YouTube150. That's YouTube150 from the folks over at BetUS. Make sure you do that. Also, thank you to our producer, Mike Rabier, on the Odyssey side, and also Mark Bonilla on the radio side as well. For them all, from Mo Moten, I'm Scott Brands, and this has been Silver and Black today. Have a great weekend. Enjoy Monday Night Football with the Raiders. We will talk to you afterwards. Take care and have a great one. All right.